Good evening and welcome to Suffering in Silence with Evangelist Tia here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay family, we're rising out of the ashes together. Our topic on tonight is the third gift. This is part 2. We have with us our co-host Mark Daria, and our guest for the evening is JD MCabe. He is the author of The Third Gift, a male survivor of domestic violence. Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our guest or our co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. You can also text us at 437-778-3299. And also, if you have any resources that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, your faith organization, you can also email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. And with that, Mark, I would ask if you would greet our listeners and viewers on this evening.
Yes, thank you, Tia, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the program, and I'm looking very much forward to hearing JD speak about this all-important topic and the lessons that he can convey to all of us on how to survive horrible circumstances. And I don't know what more I can say other than to say, glad you're with us.
I am happy to be here, and I'm thankful every day to still be alive. So I'm trying to figure out what the renewed sense of purpose the man above has for me, but we're gonna find it. He will let me know what it truly is one day. But in the meantime, I will keep doing what I think I need to be doing. But it's a pleasure to see you again, Mark. Pleasure to meet you, Tia. Nice to connect with you again. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, JD, can you tell us where your book is available, where your book can be picked up?
Yeah, I would. So I would offer this to you tonight. So if anybody that wants to purchase the book that's, sees this conversation or what have you, I would be willing to provide a significant portion of the proceeds back to Rising Out of the Ashes. So if they want to buy a signed copy, they can Venmo me at The Third Gift, $25, and that will include postage. I'll mail it out to them. Of course, if it's in the States, I know this is played internationally, but for those that may not be able to get a signed copy from me in the States, they can find it on Amazon, Target, Walmart, any of your major online retailers. There's a hardcover paperback ebook and an audio book that I narrated from the closet of my home here. Yeah. I took every pillow, every blanket that I owned, and I made a little sound studio, and I recorded it on my iPhone with the help of a guy out of Texas. The only problem with it was I sent him the first couple of chapters, and he said, I hear a whistling sound. And I looked up in my closet, and there was an AC vent, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to close that. So I recorded it in the heat of the summer, closet door closed, bedroom door closed, trying to soundproof it as much as I could. So I broke a sweat as I did that over the course of 6 weeks. But
wow, that's
fun
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And thank you so much. Thank you for your offer to help our nonprofit. I appreciate that. Love Bay, as usual, we want to start with sharing some resources. But first, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Love Bay. I just want to acknowledge our listeners and our viewers from around the world. So thank you to those of you who are in Africa, China, Europe, Asia, Germany, Bermuda, Jamaica, Tanzania, Canada, everywhere. I just want to say thank you because we wouldn't be here without you. And I really, really want to give a heartfelt and a beautiful thank you to TYB and Janice, because this radio program for me, this is a part of my ministry. This is what I do. And for them to extend this opportunity and to help me as much as they have to do what I do, I appreciate it so much. And they are so knowing and so understanding of my desire and my goal. And they're so helpful and appreciative. I just want to say thank you to them. I was thinking about I'm always ahead of time. So I'm already into next year, getting things done and planned. Next year, we'll be 4 years into what we're doing. And so I don't count that as a small thing because we would not be here without you, TYB and Janice, and not without you, Love Bay. So again, I just thank you. And I just want to acknowledge you all. So again, we want to start with sharing some resources. First, we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Their website is thehotline.org. Their number is 800-799-7233. The teletype number is 800-787-3224. Or you can text the word START, START. You can text the word START to the number 88788. The National Sexual Assault Hotline, their number is 800-656-4673. Safe Horizon Domestic Violence, their hotline number is 800-621-4673. You can also chat online at Safe Horizon, and you can chat online at the National Sexual Assault Hotline as well. And then we have Love is Respect, the National Dating Abuse Hotline. Their number is 866-331-9474. Or you can text the words Love is, LOVEIS. You can text Love is to the number 22522. These resources are in the United States, but as we always say, no matter where you are, no matter where you live, you can do a search and find resources for domestic violence agencies, for their websites, for the hotline numbers wherever you live. If you look for the national information, you can contact nationally whomever you need to get in touch with, and they should also be able to connect you locally, closer to your home with agencies where you are. And also, if you would like to give to our nonprofit Rise Out of the Ashes, you can visit our GoFundMe site. You can go to GoFundMe and look for Rise Out of the Ashes Inc. if you want to give to us that way. We help individuals with rapid funding. We help individuals who are dealing with situations connected to domestic violence, sexual assault, with emergency funding for relocation, for food, for housing, for mortgage payments, utilities, for whatever it is that there may be a financial need for. We are trying our very best to stand in the gap and to help victims and survivors in that way. So if you would like to help us, you can donate online, or you can write a check to Rise Out of the Ashes, Inc. Our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 15, Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, 19026. And the last resource that I would like to share is Pastor Darius Daniels. He's the pastor of Change Church. He has several locations in the United States. You can visit his website, which is dariusdaniels.com, and his YouTube channel is Darius Daniels TV. With that, again, our topic on tonight is the third gift. And so, JD, before I ask you my first question, there are a couple of paragraphs that, if I could, I wanted to read from the end of your book.
Sure.
There are just so many just places and things that stood out to me, but I wanted to go to these last two paragraphs to start with my first question. And in this, you say, writing this book was emotionally exhausting. In the process of doing so, it forced me to rip off the scabs, to relive all the lies, deceit, mental abuse, and character assassination. I had compartmentalized so much, but all of those boxes had to be opened. No amount of therapy will ever enable me to live with or accept the fact that the woman I loved tried to kill me with arsenic. Reliving these gloomy years, I now see there was more light than darkness. The good outweighed the bad. The laughter surpassed the tears, and I am now free. I renewed old relationships. I renewed old friendships, established new ones, strengthened family ties, and grew even closer to my kids. I have experienced every emotion possible, but the one that rises to the top is gratitude. And with that, I want to ask you, with all that you've been through, with all that you've experienced, how do you describe success? And how hard or how easy was it, or is it for you? Because it's a continuous thing. How hard or easy is it for you to move forward?
Man, that's an excellent question. Yeah, whoever wrote that paragraph did a nice job. I had a fantastic editor. I've thought about this a lot, and I've done some recent posts on this, but I was able to move forward because of gratitude. And I immediately saw, and that's why the title of the book is perfect. The Third Gift. I immediately saw it as a gift because I was struggling with what the hell was going on in my marriage. I had no understanding of why we ended up where we ended up. There was just so much emotional confusion and cloudiness that when she made that accusation, it was the man above saying, okay, I'm going to let you off the hook. It was that gratitude that I held on to as I went through hell for 5 years, from the psych lockup to the legal system to the whole journey for 5 years. It wasn't easy, but it's a mindset thing that some days I had to refocus my mind on two things. Sometimes I did it every hour. Sometimes I did it every couple of minutes because there was an awful lot of negative emotions with each day and with each new discovery, which going through the legal journey, which was another emotionally draining thing. But I got grounded in two things. One of them I call, relativity, meaning as I heard other people's stories, and this is something I told my kids. I said, look, you need to focus on two things: that we don't have it as bad as others have it. People have it far worse. That's the relativity piece for me. And then count your blessings, regardless of what you're going through, count your blessings. And many nights I did it on my hands and knees with my head buried in a bed, thanking God for the strength that He had given me to make it to this point, thanking Him for the clarity through the accusation of sexually transmitted herpes of all things. And but it wasn't easy. And I the post that I did is the best time to be grateful, the most powerful time to be grateful is during the worst of times. Mm-hmm. Now, I wasn't happy. I wasn't peaceful because you're not healed. You can't heal when you're still being cut and you're still going through it. But it was the gratitude that kept me alive. I was really, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I was pushed to the edge where without my kids, had I not had my kids in my life and had I not known that they needed me because of the shape of their mother, taking my own life might have been an easier way out. And I'm not going to say I didn't think about it. And I wasn't suicidal, ironically, when I was, involuntarily committed for 9 days, but I certainly was after the fact. But again, I leaned on gratitude. I leaned on my faith. And so I would say to anybody that's listening, it's really about a mindset shift. And again, sometimes you have to reframe and refocus on a daily basis. You have to make the choice to be a survivor versus a victim, to avoid self-pity. I'm not going to say I never jumped into the self-pity pool, but as soon as I would do that, she would do something to my kids that would remind me that, okay, I'm not in this alone. My kids are in this too. And I need to lead by example, because as my therapist at the time told me, she's like, look, as you go, they will go. They're going to be watching you. They're going to be watching your every move. They're resilient. They're going to be all right, but they're going to look to you for strength, and they're going to look to you as an example. And it wasn't easy. It absolutely wasn't easy. And I'm not going to kid anybody, but I will say today, and I knew it then, that adversity is a gift. And I don't know if you're familiar with drawing a blank on his name now. Anyhow, it's from the 1950s. It's Norman Vincent Peale is his name. Norman Vincent Peale. It was a quote that I found in my journey as I was going through the nightmare. It says, in every difficult situation, there's potential value. Believe this, then begin looking for it. And I clung to that many days and looked at that and read that and leaned on a lot of quotes. And that's why really with the book, I pretty much start every chapter with a quote to really encompass the theme of that chapter. Some of them I think are humorous. Other ones are a little more deep, but it's a mindset thing, and the mind can be a powerful tool. If you can reframe and if you can refocus and not lose sight of the fact that there is a renewed sense of purpose and there's freedom. Now, I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get there. I turned it over to God and said, let your will be done. I had no clue it would be 5 years. But it wasn't until a year and a half to 2 years ago that I truly found peace. And people ask, how do you define peace? And in my mind, it's the ability to sleep at night without the help of either alcohol or whatever, some other form of self-medication. But so I finally found peace about a year and a half ago. And the way I found that was truly making God more of a priority in my life. My faith was always good, but I'm like, I had to mentally make him more of a priority every day. And great gratitude. I'm happy now. Life is good now. It could be really easy to lose sight of all that I've been given. And so that's why I stay centered in gratitude pretty much every day. But I'm not going to lie to any of your listeners. It sucked. It was awful, as you know
Absolutely.
yourself. Yeah,
absolutely. But I mean, I love what you said about this being a process that happens on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's like once you go to sleep and wake up, the fight is on again.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even mean that you fall back into a bad place, but even just to be able to stay where you are, to keep that peace or just to get a little bit better, it does take work. Yep. It really does. And I find it very, let's see what word I want. I find it very interesting how different people define what success is. To me, success was never having money and flying around the world and, being able to buy whatever I want. For me, success was, as you said, peace, being able to lay down and go to sleep at night, being able to sleep through a whole night, not wondering, waking up, if I could go to sleep at all, what was going to happen to me. Being able to be in my own space and know that, all right, in 5 minutes, an argument is not getting ready to happen.
Right.
That for me, that is success. That to be in quiet, and not quiet because I have to, keep myself calm or keep myself together and keep myself muted, because if I say or do anything, the whole situation will explode. But really quiet because I'm in peace. Yeah. I don't need to say anything right now. I don't want to say anything right now. Some people really don't understand what that means. Yep. And I on one hand, I don't think that you have to experience abuse or trauma just to have a level of common sense to know that you just want a normal, healthy life. But then there is another level. I believe that there are some things that people won't understand unless you've been through it. Yeah. Because when you talk about the arsenic and I know what it's like to lay down at night. And I'm sleeping next to the person who very well might kill me. I know what that's like. And to be out of that situation and then think about it and then move through my life and still have that thought and it come back to me. Wow, I was really this close to that man who probably would have taken my life. That's not something that just everybody can understand. And you can't always put the words, to it. So it's interesting how people describe what they really believe peace and success is. But I thank you for the words that you shared. It made perfect sense to me. I get it. I understand.
Yeah. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah.
Mark, you have a question or comment you want to throw in there?
Yeah, I'm sitting here listening and someone that you love and you give your heart to and that you invest, so much in, can actually be your worst enemy and turn into someone who is just putting you through such nightmares that you're led to the point of contemplating suicide. It is astonishing. And we look at times like these, we look for reasons why and why would this happen. And you mentioned your faith and turning to the Lord in even in a greater sense than you were beforehand. And I have to say that whatever we go through in life, the adversity, I do believe he allows us to go through these things for exactly what both of you are doing right now. And that is reaching others and speaking with a voice and with conviction. And that to let people understand that they are not alone, that this isn't just some academic discussion, that this is something that, yes, I've been there and I've come out on the other side, and there is an end, there is hope. And that's a powerful message. A powerful message. And I was looking through some of your comments and stuff, and paraphrasing, you put it in three things: real friendship, family, and faith. And I just, that just resonates so loudly. And I think that a lot of people who are going through domestic violence and abuse, the real friendship, one of the key strokes of what people do to manipulate is to isolate you. So they try to remove all of those things from you. And that's how they gain that control and that power. And you're hitting it on the head when you talk about that real friendship. And I love that you use the term real friendship, because we've all got friends.
Yep.
Right? Got friends at work and friends at the grocery store and friends everywhere we go. But real friendship, people that you can actually sit down and talk to about the kinds of things that you've gone through. And they believe you and they understand you, and they're there to help. It's not always family that does that, but you point out the your daughters and how that just that lifeline, and it resonates with a friend of mine who once told me that he was contemplating suicide because of his addiction issues, and the only thing that kept him alive was his daughter. He said, "Mark," he said, "not you, not my mom, who's probably one of the closest people in the world to him." He says, "Nobody." He says, "You don't understand how dark it is, that nobody could say anything, nobody could do anything, but if not for my daughter." So, and again, how do we wrap ourselves around this? Well, one of the only ways we can is by your last point, the faith. And that is understanding that, yes, we are going through this. We have gone through this for a reason. And that reason is to help others. So that wasn't really a question. Having said all of that, it was just an observation.
No, but
it became more poignant as. Yeah. So I mean, if you feel you of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you had mentioned the word why, right? But that's one of the things that I did early on is within the first couple of weeks, I stopped asking why. It's a circular question. You're never going to have the answers. And as someone told me recently, the man above doesn't owe us any explanation. He'll give you one maybe in his time, but he doesn't owe you an explanation. So I didn't spend much time on asking why. It's like, all right, we're going to embrace this and, surround me with people. The other thing I wanted to say is that part of the mindset shift is it's great. I hope those that are listening that are going through difficult times, I hope they have some type of support. And Tia, you rattled off all the resources that are available nationally. But people also need to recognize that it's their battle to fight and their battle alone, right? I used to box in my youth, and I come back to my boxing days and I go, yeah, I had trainers around me. I had support, folks cheering me on, family and friends, but ultimately I'm the one that's got to get in the ring and take the punches. Mm-hmm. And so people need to recognize that too, that this is going to be my fight for the most part, and it's my battle. And if I get knocked down, I'm going to get back up over and over and over again. Yeah.
So when I speak to individuals, I make it very clear, you do need a support system. Mm-hmm. You have to build a support system around you, but that support system is not making decisions for you. The support system cannot take action for you. They should make it easier and should make it comfortable as possible. But you do have to get to that point where you are making decisions for yourself and you're taking action. Because if you have a support system, if you have family and friends telling you what to do and they're doing things for you, that's just the power dynamic being switched from one situation to another.
Yeah.
So you at some point you have to, it may take you some time and you may need some help, but you do have to use your own voice and you move in steps and do the things that you need to do. And again, as JD said, this is a daily basis. This is every day. This is doing what you need to do every day, taking a few steps at a time, and everybody's different. Like, I can tell you, I did ask why. I asked why. I wanted to know why. Why is this happening? When is it going to be over? When is this going to stop? When am I going to be okay? And Love Bay, I've told you all before, my intent was not to come out of this and be a spokesperson or an advocate. I wanted to be okay. I wanted to be in my right mind. I just wanted to be all right. So this was not a plan. This was not something, I thought ahead. I was not saying, well, there's a purpose in my pain and I'm going to use this. No, I was feeling pain that I wanted to stop, and I wanted it to be over. Now, God had another plan afterward. I didn't fight his plan. But I said that to say everybody is different, but you do have to move. You have to move forward. And JD, now I would ask you specifically, in being a man, how you move forward and how you are an example to other men. Like, do you tailor your message when you speak in front of men as opposed to speaking in front of women? How do you reach men?
Yeah, I do not. I mean, I've reached men. I was fortunate a couple of years ago to give a talk at the U.S. Marine Corps base in Barstow, California. Now, there were about 125 Marines in there. The majority of them were men. There were some females in there as well. But yeah, I don't discriminate. Even the other talks that I've done, I don't, and I'm very clear with that I didn't write this book to make it about me too versus men too, right? Because we're all inappropriate. We all have the ability to be inappropriate, and so it's not a man versus woman thing. So I don't really tailor it that way. But on a lot of my social media platforms and a lot of the posts, majority of my followers, about 83% are female. The other 17% are male. But I've heard from lots of men that have thanked me for sharing my story. Of course, as you can imagine, some haven't been so kind. Telling you to man up and, put your big boy pants on and move forward. But the majority of them have been thankful for what, for me sharing the story and raising awareness around it. And that's the reason why, one of the main reasons why I wrote the book was my female therapist at the time said, you need to, when you're done with this, you need to write a book about this, because there's no books about men on the other side of the equation. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the things that prompted me to write it. But also, family and friends and others that got involved said, man, you just got to write a book when you're done with this. And here's the name I want you to use for me. Yeah. Even my attorneys, therapists, they all came to me and said, when you write that book, here's the name I want you to use. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's amazing that, you have come forward. I mean, I do know several men, either I know them personally or men, seek me out and I'm able to counsel them or help them through. But all of that is private. It's very hard to find a man to share his story. I mean, and with good reason, I completely understand. But it's hard when I'm in an atmosphere of men and I need a man to stand beside me and to help to present a side of the story that I can't. It's difficult in that sense. But again, I do understand why. So I applaud you.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the rationale is as to why more don't want to come forward and share?
Oh, because of the shame and the embarrassment. I mean, they're very in private. They're very open and to talk to me privately and tell me that, they are ashamed. I mean, we're talking about men who are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 220, 300 pounds. And, their wives are these little itty bitty ladies. They're embarrassed to say that this is happening to me. And what I've found in common with these men is that if there is physical abuse involved, usually for them, that's like at the bottom of the list, and they all say the same thing. She can hit me all she wants. I can restrain her or it doesn't hurt. What really gets to them is the verbal abuse. It's the emotional and the psychological assault. I've seen men, just huge bears, brought to tears because of words that their wives have said, because of how they speak to them and degrade them in front of their children. I've had men just break down because of how they were talked to in front of their daughters or in front of their sons. And it's like, how can you repair that? How can you go back to your 8-year-old and fix what their mother just said? And also, they actually love these women. They love them, and they want to be loved the same way that they're giving love. So I know the answer to the question. I know why they're not doing it. And also, it's the shame of being in front of other men who don't understand, who will ridicule them, who will say, just man up, who will say, just deal with it. So it's a lot to it, but
yeah, and I agree with what you said, because for me, that's the shame piece. I never had any hesitation of putting it out there, but the one of the things that I struggled with was the shame. And what I mean by that is, I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. How the hell did I let this happen? And someone stopped me. I was on another podcast a while ago, and these podcasts are therapeutic. So again, I'm deeply appreciative of the second opportunity to come on with you. But they said, you got to stop using the word allow. You didn't allow anything. You were married to a master manipulator.
Yes.
You were married to a wicked genius, you know? And then that made me feel better, you know? But that was the shame of it, going, man, you're intelligent. How did you miss so much? Well, how did you let this happen? And especially looking back on the psychiatric stay, going, how the hell did I end up here? How did I let it get this bad? You know? So that's part of the healing process, though, too. So I fully get why there's hesitation on their part. I absolutely appreciate that and respect it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I tell you, nobody enters marriage, nobody stands at the altar, or nobody enters into a relationship and says, you know, I think this person might try to kill me one day, but I'm still just going to go ahead. Nobody makes that decision. Like, that's not what I signed up for. When I said I do, I didn't say I do to you trying to kill me in my sleep. I didn't say I do to, you doing whatever horrific or horrible thing that you would probably come to do. And some of us, were kids when we entered into relationships. And so we found ourselves 5, 10, 15 years later, not only with a completely different person because we grew up, but with a completely different person because their mindsets, their attitudes actually changed in a degrading manner that you never could have saw coming. You never expected that. Nobody expects to enter into a relationship or to enter into a marriage, and then this person is just going to tear me apart, be it physically, mentally, or verbally. Nobody foresees that.
And back to your comment about the physical abuse, I've said that to others too. I said I would have preferred that. At least I would have seen it coming, or hopefully would have seen it coming. But it's the emotional stuff. It's the psychological abuse, the gaslighting, all of it that my therapist said to me, I don't know, again, probably by the grace of God, but my therapist was fantastic. She's like, I don't know how you didn't go insane. And I said, I really don't know either. I mean, I came damn close, but I didn't, and then that's when the good Lord intervened and said, okay, enough, but, I didn't.
Well, I think it speaks, just to your point, though, I think it speaks volumes about the kind of person that you are, JD, that you're questioning your own sanity, you're questioning yourself in all of this, rather than questioning the woman that you were married to. And that's a statement about who, because you're right. She, without knowing her, and but I'm saying she's a master manipulator. She had you, dancing on a string to the point where you're questioning everything about who you are, and to put some legs on it. I mean, depending on the reading that you're doing, either 1 in 7 or 1 in 9 men are victims of abuse. And that's a pretty high number, if you think about it, practically every 11, 12 men you meet, one of them in that group has been or is being abused. And so the psychological, these people that are sitting there talking about
psychological and emotional, the psychological and emotional abuse stats are 50-50, right? Men versus women.
Mm-hmm.
I think guys still hold, at least reported, they hold the trophy, if you will, and I use that sarcastically for physical abuse, but the emotional is split evenly.
Yeah, and because of the numbers, Mark, as you were mentioning, I would gander to say that some of the men who are throwing out their verbal jabs, some of them are doing it to cover up for themselves because the numbers are so high. And when I speak at places, if I'm at a conference, if I'm speaking to women or men, I always say I don't like to give out statistics because we get stuck on numbers and we just think about numbers. And so what I always say is, no matter what statistics you look at, what those numbers mean is that in a group of people, we have, it could be as small as 10, 15 people. It could be less than 10 people. Somebody in this room has been abused, whether they're going to admit it or not, whether you know it or not. Somebody in this room has come into some kind of contact with domestic violence, or they know someone who has come into some kind of contact with domestic violence. Numbers don't lie. People do, or people keep it quiet. So again, I would venture to say that some of those who are ridiculing others are doing it to take some of the, I guess, heat or attention off of themselves. I think that's another way, to deflect. But what we really want to do is tear away that shame and that stigma. So again, JD, I appreciate what you're doing, because in the face of those other men who would ridicule, who don't understand, who may be hurting themselves and are afraid to say it, what you're doing right now is magnificent. It really
well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So what do you have next coming up? You have a tour lined up?
No, I wish. No, I just did a book fair last weekend in South Carolina. I've got a few other speaking engagements that I'm looking to shore up, but I also, and I'll keep my fingers crossed, I've sent off a couple copies to 2 different writers and producers out in California. So maybe something will be done with it, whether it's a documentary or a TV or feature film or something. So we'll see where it goes.
Awesome. All right. Well, when you get through with your producer, you send them my information so we can.
I will. Yeah,
so we can keep this going.
Yeah, I will do that for sure.
So, Mark, I have a question for you. And as Love Bay, I was sharing with JD earlier, I came to know Mark Daria because he is a professor that teaches in human trafficking. I learned of human trafficking because of Mark. There was so much that I did not think of. There was so much that I did not know, but Mark brought that to my attention through education, which I appreciate very much. But even today, when I do think of human trafficking, I think of all the different scenarios. I have to admit that right now, it's not often that I think of men in the scenario of human trafficking as being the victim. So, Mark, could you talk about that a little bit? How men are involved, not just as perpetrators or the abusers, but as victims. Sure. Different areas of human trafficking.
Sure. Well, human trafficking, as you know, has many different faces, and we tend to think of it mostly sex related, which in fact it is mostly sex related. But human trafficking is also for labor purposes. This is where men are the victims. People who are imported, who illegally and for assistance or help. You see this typically in construction work, restaurant environments. There, you could go through the list. We actually see them. They're hiding in plain sight, and they are living under terrible conditions. Oftentimes, multiple people, in a small apartment. They're owing fees to the people who got them over the border, which are unrealistic fees and can hardly ever, if ever, be repaid. Their passports are held back from them. So this is kind of thing that goes on. But one thing that is, of extreme import is children. There is unfortunately a growing appetite for children in human trafficking for sex purposes, and that is both little boys and little girls. And this is a horrible side of mankind, and it's not just in the American experience; it's worldwide. So this is just something that's incredible, and the number of little boys that are involved in this, unfortunately, is extremely high. So these are the kinds of things, to your point, Tia. These, if you go out to dinner, you're going to pass these people. So I mean, it does kind of, all of these things are, it's amazingly intertwined, because the signs and the symbols are often very similar. The quietness, the recalcitrance, people pulling back, not discussing details about their personal life, other than not engaging in conversations, not going to any kind of invitation to a party, or making friends with workers or co-workers. These are all signs and signals that we need to be paying attention to. And sometimes it's as often as just simply saying, "Are you okay? Do you need some help?" Don't take it the wrong way, but I've just noticed. Yeah, I'd rather go out on a limb and do something like that than just go stick my head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. Mm-hmm. So thank you for asking that question, Tia.
Oh, thank you.
I never thought of it from a labor perspective. So yes, thank you for that education there. How do they hold them hostage? Is it the fees of their what they have to pay to come across?
Sure. Well, I mean, one of the things, one of the things was North Koreans are often in the on each other.
So, Mark,
as I was saying, that I know that there's a lot of North Koreans in the labor market. Am I breaking up again?
A little bit.
Yes. So I was going to say, from what I have been taught by the professor, I know that in addition to the fees, the financial part, and how individuals are held captive, violence is also used. Violence against the individuals themselves, and violence against or threats against family members who may not be with them, but maybe somewhere else. So the person being held captive, the person being harmed, may be threatened with, if you don't carry out this form of labor or what have you, then we know where your family is back home. Or so, I mean, it's really brutal and horrendous. And it's like it makes you think of some of the horrible scenes that you see on, TV. And it's like, no, this isn't just a movie. This is real life. People are being tortured and harmed, all in the name of money. At the end of the day, it comes down to money when you're dealing with human trafficking. And then some people are just evil and just do horrible things. So even in this, JD, in the span of your experience and the conversations that you've had, the advocacy work that you now do, is there any information that you've learned yourself? Because I've learned a lot. My span and horizon has been really open as I've been doing this work. I've really learned there's so many sectors that cross each other, when you're dealing with domestic violence. Have you seen that as you're growing in your advocacy work?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot. And again, my advocacy work is helped me part of my healing journey as well. But I've come to terms with the biggest thing that I've come to terms with is I struggled with how parent can essentially abandon their children. She hasn't had a relationship with them in 8 years, hasn't seen them really in 5. And someone brought it to my attention that was somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, and she had a few other things on top of that. But someone with narcissistic personality disorder, they have one victim at a time. And her first victim was her father. And then when he passed away, which I thought was the tipping point to her getting into drugs when I discovered the drugs. But as I think through it and have clarity now, then I was her next victim. And then once I was out of the picture, it was my kids. And then I believe it was her mother, who passed away 6 years ago, passed away quite suddenly. I don't know all the details of it, but it's very, very suspect, to be honest with you. So once she could no longer victimize my kids, she didn't need them anymore. So that's why she's very comfortable with not being part of their lives. And I think they're blessed for that, to be honest with you. But I've learned a lot about just the whole mental health piece. I will never be able to comprehend. I'll never figure it out. So I'll stop asking how people can be so evil, how people can be so selfish. When you're a good person, you struggle with that. But as other people have told me, look, you'll never be able to comprehend it, because when you can start to comprehend it, you become them. And I'm like, wow, that's a fair point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I chalk it up to free will, right? Free will. It's a blessing and it's a curse.
Yeah.
You've got an opportunity to do some good, or you can do evil. It's your choice.
So as you're moving forward, is there anything in particular other than, I know you talked about the documentary, but is there anything in particular that you would do or want to do where men are specifically concerned?
No, do you have any ideas? I hadn't really thought of that. And so what I've done with the book, any of the proceeds from the book, where kind of my tunnel vision has been, is continue to promote the book, because a significant portion of the proceeds are going to support several different nonprofits. So I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to give anywhere between $22,000 to $25,000 to different nonprofits over the last 2-3 years. And I just kind of rotate what I do with that. But, if the book continues to sell, that would be my mission, to be able to support organizations like Rising Out of the Ashes and other organizations. I guess a big goal, as I think about it now, would be, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that there's many resources out there specifically for men.
I agree. And so listeners, viewers, Love Bay, I want you to understand any resources that are available, these numbers that we give, the websites, the hotline numbers, this information is not just for women. Men can call and contact these domestic violence agencies as well. But I have not seen very many DV agencies that are specifically geared towards men. I've not seen it. Either there are agencies that are specifically geared towards women, or there's a mix. And if there is an agency that is national, you can call, be you male or female. For instance, there are some restrictions on shelters in domestic violence areas and atmosphere. Some of them who only take women will not allow boys, I believe, over the age of 8. So there becomes a choppy area in there. Sometimes, when you're looking for help, it's like, well, where do I go? Because everything is for women. So I think society could do a better job with opening the door for men to actually get help, because we want men to come forward. We want you to open your mouth. We want you to get help, but then the help has to be there when you go to get it. And so as you were talking, I thought about you actually, if the opportunities arise, actually going into college campuses to speak to men, because we always go into college campuses, and I believe that women, young women, older women, students are always on our mind. We always want to protect our sisters and our daughters, as we should. But I think thought needs to be given to the men and the young boys as well. And a lot of times there are issues that college students are dealing with. It didn't happen on a college campus. Some of them are bringing issues in from high school and from middle school, and their hearts and their minds, their souls need to be ministered to and healed, tended to as well. So I think that would be a great area for you.
That is a wonderful thought. Yeah, and I'm actually meeting with somebody on Monday from the College of, I live in Charleston, South Carolina, Mark. So I'm meeting with somebody from the College of Charleston. So for one of their ministries there. So that's something I can bring up. That is that thought. If I were to speak to him, I'd tell him not to get married. That would be my advice. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but I would tell them, that would be the advice. I would tell them to have a list and I didn't do it. I didn't have a list of must-haves and deal breakers. I didn't think through what I wanted in a partner. I'm in a fantastic, healthy relationship now for the last 5 years, and I did do that with her, whether she liked it or not. But I had my list of must-haves and deal breakers, and I think it's important for young men and young women to have that.
Yes. I agree with the list. I agree with the must-haves, the deal breakers. But I believe at the very top of anyone's list should be love. It should be loving yourself.
Yes.
And not what you just want to receive from the other person. Because you can be in a beautiful relationship with a person who loves you, who is there for you, who supports you. And if you don't love yourself, then you won't be able to receive the honest and pure love that they're giving to you.
That's a beautiful point.
You have to be able to love yourself. You have to know yourself and be comfortable with yourself. Because if you're not comfortable with you, then you'll make changes and, try to fit into this clique or with this person or be comfortable with you. And like, hey, if you can't deal with my quirkiness, then you're not the one.
And that's what I told my girlfriend now on a first or second date. And I said with a smile on my face, but I said, I'm not looking for you to make me happy. Yeah. I'm perfectly content on my own. I've been on my own. I hadn't dated after the divorce for 3 years. I said, but I'm open to the fact of you making me happier. But I'm not going to rely on somebody else to make me happy.
Yeah.
To your point, I want to be comfortable on my own. I want to be comfortable in my own skin, be able to love myself. And to be honest with you, that was a long journey back to get back to understanding who I am after they strip you down, as you know, Tia, right? They strip you down, hollow you out, take your identity as a man and as a woman, or, that takes time to get that back.
Yeah. So when you get it back, you don't give it up easily.
No.
You don't. So, and that is what a healthy and whole person will do. Those are the conclusions that you come to, that I make me happy and you can make my life better, but you can't give me what really is not in your hands anyway. And you shouldn't put that in someone else's hands anyway. You can't put your happiness, you can't put your life in someone else's hands to manipulate and to turn any kind of way that they want, even if they have good intentions. That is the breeding ground for abuse. That's the breeding ground for harm.
Absolutely. And I told my daughter that early on. She probably didn't like it at the time, but as we were going through it, I said, I'm not responsible and nobody else is responsible for your happiness or your emotional well-being but you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People can harm that, of course. They can abuse you emotionally and all that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your happiness and your emotional well-being is on you, and you got to put in the work.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what you need to tell the boys in college. Focus on your studies, pass your classes, focus on your career, and make sure that you come out of this not only with a degree, but as a healthy and whole individual.
Absolutely. And by the way, I was remiss, but congratulations on your recent graduation, right?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. So Love Bay, I shared with you, I recently graduated with my bachelor's degree from Gwinnett. And in a few weeks, I will be starting the master's program. So I'm going right back into it. But thank you. Thank you so much.
What are you going to get your master's?
I'm going to continue in business administration, organizational management. I keep stuff together. I just like to be organized.
Very, very good. Very good. Excellent.
And what's funny? Everyone several people have asked me, you know, like, what are you going to do now? How are you going to move in your career? I literally already have the job I would have needed the degree for. Like, this is what I do. For me, my degree was a personal goal. That was something that domestic violence took from me, but I was able to go back and get it. And I want my master's, and I want to keep going after that. But for me, this was a personal goal. And I love it. So it's one of those successes I was able to get to, you know. So life does go on. So Love Bay, I can say, you can look at JD's life. You can look at Mark's life, you know, the stories that he shared. Abuse doesn't stop you. It's a stumbling block. You know, it may change your path, but it's not over. It's not over. You may have to do some things differently. It may take a little bit longer, but you can do it. It's not over. So I believe that we are a testament to that. So you can see that and you can hear it. You can move forward in your life. Do what you need to do. Do what you want to do.
Absolutely. Amen.
So we are just under the hour. So Mark, I'm going to ask if you would give us some final words for the evening, and then JD, if you would close us out for the night. Mark.
Sure.
I'm just thinking some of the words, JD, if that would be apropos, is something that you were saying is believe in yourself and to be your own advocate. I think is very apropos to what we're talking about tonight, and I think we've been kind of covering that, but it's good to crystallize it and to just really make it that clear. You're right. No one can make you happy. They can make you happier, but you have to be content with yourself, and you have to know yourself. And I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the list on
must-haves and deal breakers.
Loved ones. I mean, there are things you talk about, absolutely, but I'm saying, when you give your heart to someone, you're trusting them, and the betrayal of that is not something that you should be going into expecting, and so I get it. I'm a little standoffish on it. When you go into a business deal, yeah, I'm looking for you to try to do something to me. When I go to a car salesman, when I go to a doctor's office, these are have your situational awareness glasses on, but with and even certain family members and the like, but with a spouse, with your children, I'd rather err on being stupid, in retrospect. And now you paid a very heavy price for not noting the details. But I can't fault you for that. And in fact, I think that that's a strength, because it speaks to your ability to actually love people and to trust them. That's what makes us human. So,
well, thank you for that. Yeah.
If we start to go down that road of always doubting and always
So thank you so much, Mark. JD, you want to give us your final thoughts on the night?
Yeah, and again, thank you very much. This has been a true pleasure and an honor to be back with you guys. And Mark, it's been a pleasure to meet you. I will close it out with this quote. And it's, again, I'm a big fan of quotes. And I opened chapter 10 with this quote. It's a quote from chapter 10, which is titled The Third Gift, which is the same as the book. It's from Mary Oliver. And believe it or not, before I even started writing the book, my son sent it to me. I had no vision of writing a book. He just sent it to me out of the blue. And it says, someone I once loved gave me a box full of darkness. It took me many years to understand that this too was a gift. So again, I'd close with the thought that adversity is a gift if you choose to see it that way.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, JD. I think that was it's absolutely beautiful, and I completely and totally understand the meaning behind it. But all transparency, it took me a moment to be able to see a gift in that darkness. But it does happen. You don't let it stop you. You keep pushing through to the end. You will come out on the other side. and you will see. You'll see what you're made of, really.
Yeah.
And you'll see what you can do, what you can be, starting over from scratch. And when you get to that point, when you rebuild your life, when you rebuild your heart, no, you don't just simply let somebody else come in and take it and tear you down. So I thank you again so much for what you've done. I thank you for what you're doing. Thank you, Mark, so much for what you're doing. I thank you for all that you have taught me and will be continuing to teach me as we walk together in this advocacy work that has no end. I thank you both so much.
It's been a pleasure, and you're very welcome. So
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So Love Bay, if you want to catch up on previous episodes from our program, you can visit our YouTube channel, Surfing in Silence TV. Thank you so much for joining Surfing in Silence with Evangelist Tia here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay will rise out of the ashes together. Good evening.